Hey guys. Welcome to Serbian Guys channel. Follow me on Instagram account, Facebook account, and Twitter account. Also join our Discord server and donate money to our PayPal if you want. Links are in description. Today we are taking a ride from NIS, Serbian city, to Rijeka, Croatian city. Let's talk about something. Croatia, officially the Republic of Croatia, is a country in Southeast Europe. It borders Slovenia to the northwest, Hungary to the northeast, Serbia to the east, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro to the southeast, sharing a maritime border with Italy. Its capital, Zagreb, forms one of the country's primary subdivisions, along with 20 counties. Croatia has an area of 56,594 square kilometers, 21,851 square miles, and a population of 4.07 million, most of whom are Catholics. Croatia has been inhabited since the Paleolithic Age. The Croats arrived in the area in the 6th century and organized the territory into two duchies by the 9th century. Croatia was first internationally recognized as an independent state on June 7, 879 during the reign of Duke Branimir. Tomislav became the first king by 925, elevating Croatia to the status of a kingdom, which retained its sovereignty for nearly 2 centuries. During the succession crisis after the Trpimirovic dynasty ended, Croatia entered a personal union with Hungary in 1102. In 1527, faced with Ottoman conquest, the Croatian parliament elected Ferdinand I of Austria to the Croatian throne. In October 1918, in the final days of World War I, the state of Slovenes, Croats and Serbs, independent from Austria-Hungary, was proclaimed in Zagreb, and in December 1918 it was merged into the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes, renamed the Kingdom of Yugoslavia in 1929. Following the Axis invasion of Yugoslavia in April 1941, most of the Croatian territory was incorporated into a Nazi-backed client state, the independent state of Croatia. In response, a resistance movement developed. This led to the creation of the federal state of Croatia, which after the war became a founding member and constituent of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. On June 25, 1991, Croatia declared independence, which came wholly into effect on October 8 of the same year. The Croatian War of Independence was fought successfully for 4 years following the declaration. A sovereign state, Croatia is a republic governed under a parliamentary system. It is a member of the European Union, EU, the United Nations, UN, the Council of Europe, NATO, the World Trade Organization, WTO, and a founding member of the Union for the Mediterranean. As an active participant in the UN peacekeeping forces, Croatia has contributed troops to the NATO-led mission in Afghanistan and took a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council for the 2008 to 2009 term. Since 2000, the Croatian government has constantly invested in infrastructure, especially transport routes and facilities along the pan-European corridors. Croatia is classified by the World Bank as a high-income country and ranked 46th on the Human Development Index. The economy is dominated by service, industrial sectors, and agriculture. Tourism is a significant source of revenue, with Croatia ranked among the top 20 most popular tourist destinations in the world. The state controls a part of the economy, with substantial government expenditure. The European Union is Croatia's most important trading partner. Croatia provides social security, universal health care system, and a tuition-free primary and secondary education, while supporting culture through numerous public institutions and corporate investments in media and publishing. The name of Croatia derives from medieval Latin Croatia, itself a derivation of Northwest Slavic Croat by liquid metathesis from Common Slavic period Korvat, which possibly comes from Old Persian, the root word being a 3rd century Scytho-Sarmatian form attested in the Tanis tablets as Korotos. Alternate forms comprise Korotos and Koroathos. The origin of the name is uncertain but is thought to be a Gothic or Indo-Aryan term assigned to a Slavic tribe. The oldest preserved record of the Croatian ethnonym Croati is of the variable stem, attested in the Baška tablet in style Zivanimir, Croatian king. The first attestation of the Latin term is attributed to a charter of Duke Trpimir from the year 852. The original is lost, and just a 1568 copy is preserved, leading to doubts over the authenticity of the claim. Although was archaeologically confirmed that the ethnonym Croatorum is mentioned in a church inscription found in Bijasi near Trogir dated to the end of the 8th or early 9th century, the presumably oldest preserved stone inscription is the 9th century Branimir inscription found near Benkovac, where Duke Branimir is styled Dux Croatorum. The inscription is not believed to be dated accurately but is likely to be from during the period of 879 to 892, during Branimir's rule. The area known as Croatia today was inhabited throughout the prehistoric period. Fossils of Neanderthals dating to the Middle Paleolithic period have been unearthed in northern Croatia, with the most famous and the best presented site in Krapina. Remnants of several Neolithic and Chalcolithic cultures were found in all regions of the country. The largest proportion of the sites is in the river valleys of northern Croatia, and the most significant cultures whose presence was discovered include Baden, Starcevo, and Vuestal cultures. The Iron Age left traces of the early Illyrian Hallstatt culture and the Celtic Latine culture. Much later, the region was settled by Illyrians and Liburnians, while the first Greek colonies were established on the islands of Hvar, Korčula, and Vis. In 9 AD the territory of today's Croatia became part of the Roman Empire. Emperor Diocletian was native to the region, and he had a large palace built in Split to which he retired after his abdication in AD 305. During the 5th century, the last de jure Western Roman Emperor Julius Nepos ruled his small realm from the palace after fleeing Italy to go into exile in 475. The period ends with Avar and Croat invasions in the first half of the 7th century and the destruction of almost all Roman towns. Roman survivors retreated to more favorable sites on the coast, islands, and mountains. The city of Dubrovnik was founded by such survivors from Epidaurus. The ethnogenesis of Croats is uncertain and there are several competing theories, Slavic and Iranian being the most frequently put forward. The most widely accepted of these, the Slavic theory, proposes migration of White Croats from the territory of White Croatia during the migration period. Conversely, the Iranian theory proposes Iranian origin, based on Tanis tablets containing Greek inscription of given names Koroathos, Korothos, and Korothos and their interpretation as anthroponyms of Croatian people. According to the work De Administrando Imperio written by the 10th century Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII, the Croats had arrived in Roman province of Dalmatia in the first half of the 7th century after they defeated the Avars. However, that claim is disputed and competing hypotheses date the event between the 6th and the 9th centuries. Eventually two dukedoms were formed, Duchy of Pannonia and Duchy of Croatia, ruled by Ljudevit and Borna, as attested by chronicles of Einhard starting in 818. The record represents the first document of Croatian realms, vassal states of Francia at the time. The Frankish overlordship ended during the reign of Mislav 2 decades later. According to Constantine VII, Christianization of Croats began in the 7th century, but the claim is disputed and generally Christianization is associated with the 9th century. The first native Croatian ruler recognized by the Pope was Duke Branimir, who received papal recognition from Pope John VIII on June 7, 879. Tomislav was the first king of Croatia, styled as such in a letter of Pope John X in 925. Tomislav defeated Hungarian and Bulgarian invasions, spreading the influence of Croatian kings. The medieval Croatian kingdom reached its peak in the 11th century during the reigns of Petar Kresimir IV, 1058–1074, and Mitar Zvanimir, 1075–1089. When Stjepan II died in 1091 ending the Trpimirovic dynasty, Mitar Zvanimir's brother-in-law Ladislaus I of Hungary claimed the Croatian crown. This led to a war and personal union of Croatia and Hungary in 1102 under Koloman. For the next 4 centuries, the Kingdom of Croatia was ruled by the Sabor, parliament, and a ban, viceroy, appointed by the king. This period saw the rise of influential nobility such as the Frankopan and Subic families to prominence, and ultimately numerous bans from the two families. There was increasing threat of Ottoman conquest, and a struggle against the Republic of Venice for control of coastal areas. The Venetians gained control over most of Dalmatia by 1428, with exception of the city-state of Dubrovnik which became independent. Ottoman conquests led to the 1493 Battle of Krabava Field and 1526 Battle of Mohacs, both ending in decisive Ottoman victories. King Louis II died at Mohacs, and in 1527, the Croatian parliament met in Seaton and chose Ferdinand I of the Hose of Habsburg as new ruler of Croatia, under the condition that he provide protection to Croatia against the Ottoman Empire while respecting its political rights. Following the decisive Ottoman victories, Croatia was split into civilian and military territories, with the partition formed in 1538. The military territories would become known as the Croatian military frontier and were under direct Habsburg control. Ottoman advances in the Croatian territory continued until the 1593 Battle of Sisak, the first decisive Ottoman defeat, and stabilization of borders. During the Great Turkish War, 1683–1698, Slavonia was regained but western Bosnia, which had been part of Croatia before the Ottoman conquest, remained outside Croatian control. The present-day border between the two countries is a remnant of this outcome. Dalmatia, the southern part of the border, was similarly defined by the 5th and the 7th Ottoman, Venetian Wars. The Ottoman Wars instigated great demographic changes. During the 16th century, Croats from western and northern Bosnia, Lika, Krabava, the area between the rivers of Una and Kupa and especially from western Slavonia migrated towards Austria, and the present-day Burgenland Croats are direct descendants of these settlers. To replace the fleeing population, the Habsburgs encouraged the populations of Bosnia to provide military service in the military frontier. The Croatian parliament supported King Charles II's Pragmatic Sanction and signed their own Pragmatic Sanction in 1712. Subsequently, the emperor pledged to respect all privileges and political rights of Kingdom of Croatia, and Queen Maria Theresa made significant contributions to Croatian matters, such as introducing compulsory education. Between 1797 and 1809 the First French Empire gradually occupied the entire eastern Adriatic coastline and a substantial part of its hinterland, ending the Venetian and the Ragusan republics, establishing the Illyrian provinces. In response, the Royal Navy started the blockade of the Adriatic Sea, leading to the Battle of Vis in 1811. The Illyrian provinces were captured by the Austrians in 1813, and absorbed by the Austrian Empire following the Congress of Vienna in 1815. This led to formation of the Kingdom of Dalmatia and restoration of the Croatian littoral to the Kingdom of Croatia, now both under the same crown. The 1830s and 1840s saw Romantic nationalism inspire the Croatian national revival, a political and cultural campaign advocating the unity of all South Slavs in the empire. Its primary focus was the establishment of a standard language as a counterweight to Hungarian, along with the promotion of Croatian literature and culture. During the Hungarian Revolution of 1848, Croatia sided with the Austrians, Ban Josip Jelačić helping defeat the Hungarian forces in 1849, and ushering a period of Germanization policy. By the 1860s, failure of the policy became apparent, leading to the Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867 and creation of a personal union between the crowns of the Austrian Empire and the Kingdom of Hungary. The treaty left the issue of Croatia's status to Hungary, and the status was resolved by the Croatian-Hungarian settlement of 1868 when kingdoms of Croatia and Slavonia were united. The Kingdom of Dalmatia remained under de facto Austrian control, while Rijeka retained the status of Corpus Separatum introduced in 1779. After Austria-Hungary occupied Bosnia and Herzegovina following the 1878 Treaty of Berlin, the Croatian military frontier was abolished and the territory returned to Croatia in 1881, pursuant to provisions of the Croatian-Hungarian settlement. Renewed efforts to reform Austria-Hungary, entailing federalization with Croatia as a federal unit, were stopped by advent of World War I. On October 29, 1918 the Croatian parliament, Sabor, declared independence and decided to join the newly formed state of Slovenes, Croats and Serbs, which in turn entered into union with the Kingdom of Serbia on December 4, 1918 to form the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. The Croatian parliament never ratified a decision to unite with Serbia and Montenegro. The 1921 constitution defining the country as a unitary state and abolition of Croatian parliament and historical administrative divisions effectively ended Croatian autonomy. Stjepan Radic, leader of the Croatian Peasant Party who advocated federal organization of the Yugoslavia, at the assembly in Dubrovnik, 1921. The political situation deteriorated further as Radic was assassinated in the National Assembly in 1928, leading to the dictatorship of King Alexander in January 1929. The dictatorship formally ended in 1931 when the king imposed a more unitarian constitution, and changed the name of the country to Yugoslavia. The HSS, now led by Vlatko Masic, continued to advocate federalization of Yugoslavia, resulting in the Cvetkovic-Masic Agreement of August 1939 and the autonomous Banovina of Croatia. The Yugoslav government retained control of defense, internal security, foreign affairs, trade, and transport while other matters were left to the Croatian Sabor and a crown-appointed ban. People of Zagreb celebrating liberation from Axis powers by Yugoslav partisans on 12 May 1945. In April 1941, Yugoslavia was occupied by Germany and Italy. Following the invasion of the territory, parts of Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the region of Sirmia were incorporated into the independent state of Croatia, NDH, a Nazi-backed puppet state. Parts of Dalmatia were annexed by Italy, and the northern Croatian regions of Barangia and Međimurje by Hungary. The NDH regime was led by anti-Pavlik and ultranationalist Ustase. NDH was trying to establish such an internal structure that would be consistent with that of the Third Reich and Fascist Italy, so its authorities introduced racial laws against Jews, Roma, and Serbs, many of whom were imprisoned in concentration camps. The Ustase regime murdered around 300,000 Serbs, as part of their genocide campaign. Statistician Vladimir Đurđević lists 217,000 as victims of terror by the Axis, including the genocide in the NDH. The total number of Serb civilian and military deaths in the territory of the NDH was at around 330,000 to 370,000. Of the almost 40,000 Jews in the NDH, only around 9,000 survived, while most of the 15,000 Roma were killed. At the same time, anti-fascist Croats were targeted by the regime as well. The Yugoslav Royalist and Serbian nationalist Chetniks, a guerrilla force that collaborated with the Axis, carried out genocide against Croats and Bosniaks. An estimated 47,000 to 68,000 Croats and Bosniaks died at the hands of the Chetniks, mostly civilians. The total number of Croats who lost their lives during World War II from all causes, based on the studies of Vladimir Đurđević and Bogal Yubkočević, is estimated to be approximately 200,000. A resistance movement soon emerged. On June 22, 1941, the 1st Sisak partisan detachment was formed near Sisak, as the first military unit formed by a resistance movement in occupied Europe. This sparked the beginning of the Yugoslav partisan movement, a communist multi-ethnic anti-fascist resistance group led by Josip Broz Tito. The movement grew rapidly, and at the Tehran Conference in December 1943 the partisans gained recognition from the Allies. With Allied support in logistics, equipment, training, and air power, and with the assistance of Soviet troops taking part in the 1944 Belgrade Offensive, the partisans gained control of Yugoslavia and the border regions of Italy and Austria by May 1945, during which tens of thousands of members of the NDH armed forces, as well as Croat refugees, were killed by the Yugoslav partisans. In the following years, ethnic Germans faced persecution in Yugoslavia, and many were interned in camps. The political aspirations of the partisan movement were reflected in the State Anti-Fascist Council for the National Liberation of Croatia, which developed in 1943 as the bearer of Croatian statehood and later transformed into the Parliament of Croatia in 1945, and of note its counterpart at the Yugoslav level. Josip Broz Tito led SFR Yugoslavia from 1944 to 1980, pictured, Tito with the U.S. President Richard Nixon in the White House, 1971. After World War II, Croatia became a single-party socialist federal unit of the SFR Yugoslavia, ruled by the Communists, but enjoying a degree of autonomy within the federation. In 1967, Croatian authors and linguists published a declaration on the status and name of the Croatian standard language demanding greater autonomy for the Croatian language. The declaration contributed to a national movement seeking greater civil rights and decentralization of the Yugoslav economy, culminating in the Croatian Spring of 1971, suppressed by Yugoslav leadership. Still, the 1974 Yugoslav constitution gave increased autonomy to federal units, basically fulfilling a goal of the Croatian Spring, and providing a legal basis for independence of the federative constituents. Following the death of Yugoslav President Josip Broz Tito in 1980, the political situation in Yugoslavia deteriorated, with national tension fanned by the 1986 SANU Memorandum and the 1989 coups in Vojvodina, Kosovo, and Montenegro. In January 1990, the Communist Party fragmented along national lines, with the Croatian faction demanding a looser federation. In the same year, the first multi-party elections were held in Croatia, with Franjo Tudman's win raising nationalist tensions further. Some of Serbs in Croatia left Sabor and declared the autonomy of areas that would soon become the unrecognized Republic of Serbian Krajina, intent on achieving independence from Croatia. As tensions rose, Croatia declared independence on June 25, 1991. However, the full implementation of declaration only came into effect on October 8, 1991. In the meantime, tensions escalated into overt war when the Yugoslav People's Army, JNA, and various Serb paramilitary groups attacked Croatia. By the end of 1991, a high-intensity conflict fought along a wide front reduced Croatia to control of only about two-thirds of its territory. The various Serb paramilitary groups then began pursuing a campaign of killing, terror, and expulsion against the Croats in the rebel territories, killing thousands of Croat civilians and expelling or displacing as many as 400,000 Croats and other non-Serbs from their homes. On January 15, 1992, Croatia gained diplomatic recognition by the European Economic Community members, and subsequently the United Nations. The war effectively ended in August 1995 with a decisive victory by Croatia. The event is commemorated each year on August 5 as Victory and Homeland Thanksgiving Day and the Day of Croatian Defenders. Following the Croatian victory, about 200,000 Serbs from the self-proclaimed Republic of Serbian Krajina fled from the region and their lands were subsequently settled by Croat refugees from Bosnia and Herzegovina. The remaining occupied areas were restored to Croatia pursuant to the Erdut Agreement of November 1995, with the process concluded in January 1998. Following the end of the war, Croatia faced the challenges of post-war reconstruction, the return of refugees, advancing democratic principles, protection of human rights and general social and economic development. The post-2000 period is characterized by democratization, economic growth, and structural and social reforms, as well as problems such as unemployment, corruption, and the inefficiency of the public administration. Croatia joined the Partnership for Peace on May 25, 2000 and became a member of the World Trade Organization on November 30, 2000. On October 29, 2001, Croatia signed a Stabilization and Association Agreement with the European Union, submitted a formal application for the EU membership in 2003, was given the status of candidate country in 2004 and began accession negotiations in 2005. In November 2000 and March 2001, the parliament amended the constitution, changing its bicameral structure back into historic unicameral and reducing the presidential powers. Croatia has been a member of the European Union since 2013. Although Croatia experienced a significant boom in the economy in the early 2000s, the increase of the government debt and the absence of concrete reforms led to a financial crisis in 2008 which forced the government to cut public spending, thus provoking a public outcry. On April 1, 2009, Croatia joined NATO. A wave of anti-government protests organized via Facebook took place in early 2011 as general dissatisfaction with political and economic state grew. The majority of Croatian voters voted in favor of country's EU membership at the 2012 referendum. Croatia completed EU accession negotiations in 2011 and joined the European Union on July 1, 2013. Croatia was affected by the European migrant crisis in 2015 when Hungary's closure of its borders with Serbia forced over 700,000 migrants to use Croatia as a transit country on their way to Western Europe. On March 22, 2020, a 5.5 earthquake struck Croatia, with the epicenter located 7 kilometers, 4.3 miles, north of Zagreb city center, the nation's capital, inflicting heavy structural damage in historic city center, and causing 27 injuries with 1 fatality. Over 1,900 buildings were reported to have become uninhabitable by the earthquake damage. The earthquake occurred during the coronavirus pandemic and caused problems in enforcement of social distancing measures set out by the government of Croatia. It occurred during the Croatian presidency of the Council of the European Union. Croatia is located in Central and Southeast Europe, on the coast of the Adriatic Sea. It borders Hungary to the northeast, Serbia to the east, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro to the southeast, and Slovenia to the northwest. It lies mostly between latitudes 42 degrees and 47 degrees north and longitudes 13 degrees and 20 degrees east. Part of the territory in the extreme south surrounding Dubrovnik is a practical exclave connected to the rest of the mainland by territorial waters, but separated on land by a short coastline strip belonging to Bosnia and Herzegovina around Neum. The territory covers 56,594 square kilometers, 21,851 square miles, consisting of 56,414 square kilometers, 21,782 square miles, of land and 128 square kilometers, 49 square miles, of water. It is the 127th largest country in the world. Elevation ranges from the mountains of the Dinaric Alps with the highest point of the Dinara Peak at 1,831 meters, 6,007 feet, near the border with Bosnia and Herzegovina in the south to the shore of the Adriatic Sea which makes up its entire southwest border. Insular Croatia consists of over 1,000 islands and islets varying in size, 48 of which are permanently inhabited. The largest islands are Cres and Krk, each of them having an area of around 405 square kilometers, 156 square miles. The hilly northern parts of Hrvatsko Zagorje and the flat plains of Slavonia in the east, which is part of the Pannonian Basin, are traversed by major rivers such as Danube, Drava, Kupa, and Sava. The Danube, Europe's second longest river, runs through the city of Vukovar in the extreme east and forms part of the border with Vojvodina. The central and southern regions near the Adriatic coastline and islands consist of low mountains and forested highlands. Natural resources found in the country in quantities significant enough for production include oil, coal, bauxite, low-grade iron ore, calcium, gypsum, natural asphalt, silica, mica, clays, salt, and hydropower. Karst topography makes up about half of Croatia and is especially prominent in the Dinaric Alps. There are a number of deep caves in Croatia, 49 of which are deeper than 250 meters 820.21 feet, 14 of them deeper than 500 meters 1,640.42 feet and 3 deeper than 1,000 meters 3,280.84 feet. Croatia's most famous lakes are the Plitvice Lakes, a system of 16 lakes with waterfalls connecting them over dolomite and limestone cascades. The lakes are renowned for their distinctive colors, ranging from turquoise to mint green, gray or blue. Most of Croatia has a moderately warm and rainy continental climate as defined by the Köppen climate classification. Mean monthly temperature ranges between 3 degrees C, 27 degrees Fahrenheit, in January and 18 degrees Celsius 64 degrees Fahrenheit in July. The coldest parts of the country are Lika and Gorski Kotar, where snowy forested climate is found at elevations above 1,200 meters, 3,900 feet. The warmest areas of Croatia are at the Adriatic coast and especially in its immediate hinterland characterized by the Mediterranean climate, as the temperature highs are moderated by the sea. Consequently, temperature peaks are more pronounced in the continental areas. The lowest temperature of 35.5 degrees C, 31.9 degree F, was recorded on February 3, 1919 in Kakovec, and the highest temperature of 42.8 degrees Celsius 109.0 degrees Fahrenheit was recorded on August 4, 1981 in Plis. Mean annual precipitation ranges between 600 mm, 24 inches, and 3,500 mm, 140 inches, depending on geographic region and prevailing climate type. The least precipitation is recorded in the outer islands, Bizevo, Lastovo, Svetak, Vis, and in the eastern parts of Slavonia. However, in the latter case, it occurs mostly during the growing season. The maximum precipitation levels are observed on the Dinara mountain range and in Gorski Kotar. Prevailing winds in the interior are light to moderate northeast or southwest, and in the coastal area, prevailing winds are determined by local area features. Higher wind velocities are more often recorded in cooler months along the coast, generally as the cool northeasterly Bura or less frequently as the warm southerly Yugo. The sunniest parts of the country are the outer islands, Hvar, and Korčula, where more than 2,700 hours of sunshine are recorded per year, followed by the middle and southern Adriatic Sea area in general, and northern Adriatic coast, all with more than 2,000 hours of sunshine per year. Croatia can be subdivided between a number of ecoregions because of its climate and geomorphology. The country is consequently one of the richest in Europe in terms of biodiversity. There are 4 types of biogeographical regions in Croatia: Mediterranean along the coast and in its immediate hinterland, Alpine in most of Lika and Gorski Kotar, Pannonian along Drava and Danube, and continental in the remaining areas. One of the most significant are karst habitats, which include submerged karst, such as Zermangia and Krka canyons and tufa barriers, as well as underground habitats. The karst geology harbors approximately 7,000 caves and pits, some of which are the habitat of the only known aquatic cave vertebrate, the olm. Forests are also significantly present in the country, as they cover 2,490,000 hectares, 6,200,000 acres, representing 44% of Croatian land surface. Other habitat types include wetlands, grasslands, bogs, fens, scrub habitats, coastal and marine habitats. In terms of phytogeography, Croatia is a part of the Boreal Kingdom and is a part of Illyrian and Central European provinces of the Circumboreal region and the Adriatic province of the Mediterranean region. The Worldwide Fund for Nature divides Croatia between 3 ecoregions: Pannonian mixed forests, Dinaric mountains mixed forests, and Illyrian deciduous forests. There are 37,000 known species in Croatia, but their actual number is estimated to be between 50,000 and 100,000. The claim is supported by nearly 400 new taxa of invertebrates discovered in Croatia in the first half of the 2000s alone. There are more than 1,000 endemic species, especially in Velebit and Biokovo Mountains, Adriatic Islands, and karst rivers. Legislation protects 1,131 species. The most serious threat to species is loss and degradation of habitats. A further problem is presented by invasive alien species, especially Caulerpa taxifolia algae. The invasive algae are regularly monitored and removed to protect the benthic habitat. Indigenous sorts of cultivated plants and breeds of domesticated animals are also numerous. Those include 5 breeds of horses, 5 breeds of cattle, 8 breeds of sheep, 2 breeds of pigs, and a poultry breed. Even the indigenous breeds include 9 endangered or critically endangered ones. There are 444 protected areas of Croatia, encompassing 9% of the country. Those include 8 national parks, 2 strict reserves, and 10 nature parks. The most famous protected area and the oldest national park in Croatia is the Plitvice Lakes National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Velebit Nature Park is a part of the UNESCO Man and the Biosphere program. The strict and special reserves, as well as the national and nature parks, are managed and protected by the central government, while other protected areas are managed by counties. In 2005, the National Ecological Network was set up, as the first step in the preparation of the EU accession and joining of the Natura 2000 network. The Republic of Croatia is a unitary state using a parliamentary system of governance. With the collapse of the ruling Communist Party in SFR Yugoslavia, Croatia organized its first multi-party elections and adopted its present constitution in 1990. It declared independence on October 8, 1991, which led to the breakup of Yugoslavia and country's international recognition by the United Nations in 1992. Under its 1990 constitution, Croatia operated a semi-presidential system until 2000 when it switched to a parliamentary system. Government powers in Croatia are divided into legislative, executive, and judiciary powers. The President of the Republic, Croatian, Predsjednik Republike, is the head of state, directly elected to a 5-year term and is limited by the constitution to a maximum of 2 terms. In addition to being the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the president has the procedural duty of appointing the prime minister with the consent of the parliament, and has some influence on foreign policy. The most recent presidential elections were held on January 5, 2020, when Zoran Milanovic became the new president. He took the oath of office on February 19, 2015. The government is headed by the prime minister, who has 4 deputy prime ministers and 16 ministers in charge of particular sectors of activity. As the executive branch, it is responsible for proposing legislation and a budget, executing the laws, and guiding the foreign and internal policies of the republic. The government is seated at Banski Dvori in Zagreb. Since October 19, 2016, Croatian Prime Minister has been Andrej Plenković. A unicameral parliament, Sabor, holds legislative power. A second chamber, the House of Counties, set up in 1993 pursuant to the 1990 Constitution, was abolished in 2001. The number of Sabor members can vary from 100 to 160, they are all elected by popular vote to serve 4-year terms. The sessions of the Sabor take place from January 15 to July 15, and from September 15 to December 15. The 2 largest political parties in Croatia are the Croatian Democratic Union and the Social Democratic Party of Croatia. Croatia has a civil law legal system in which law arises primarily from written statutes, with judges serving merely as implementers and not creators of law. Its development was largely influenced by German and Austrian legal systems. Croatian law is divided into 2 principal areas: private and public law. By the time EU accession negotiations were completed on June 30, 2010, Croatian legislation was fully harmonized with the Community Acquis. The main law in the county is the constitution adopted on December 22, 1990. The main national courts are the Constitutional Court, which oversees violations of the Constitution, and the Supreme Court, which is the highest court of appeal. In addition, there are also administrative, commercial, county, misdemeanor, and municipal courts. Cases falling within judicial jurisdiction are in the first instance decided by a single professional judge, while appeals are deliberated in mixed tribunals of professional judges. Lay magistrates also participate in trials. State's Attorney Office is the judicial body constituted of public prosecutors that is empowered to instigate prosecution of perpetrators of offenses. Law enforcement agencies are organized under the authority of the Ministry of the Interior, which consist primarily of the National Police Force. Croatia Security Service is the security and intelligence agency, SOA. Croatia was first subdivided into counties in the Middle Ages. The divisions changed over time to reflect losses of territory to Ottoman conquest and subsequent liberation of the same territory, changes of political status of Dalmatia, Dubrovnik, and Istria. The traditional division of the country into counties was abolished in the 1920s when the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes and the subsequent Kingdom of Yugoslavia introduced oblasts and banovinas respectively. Communist-ruled Croatia, as a constituent part of post-World War II Yugoslavia, abolished earlier divisions and introduced municipalities, subdividing Croatia into approximately 100 municipalities. Counties were reintroduced in 1992 legislation, significantly altered in terms of territory relative to the pre-1920s subdivisions. In 1918, the Translatonian part of Croatia was divided into 8 counties with their seats in Bjelovar, Gospić, Ogulin, Osijek, Požega, Varaždin, Vukovar, and Zagreb, and the 1992 legislation established 14 counties in the same territory. Since the counties were re-established in 1992, Croatia is divided into 20 counties and the capital city of Zagreb, the latter having the authority and legal status of a county and a city at the same time. Borders of the counties changed in some instances since, with the latest revision taking place in 2006. The counties subdivide into 127 cities and 429 municipalities. Nomenclature of territorial units for statistics, NUTS, division of Croatia is performed in several tiers. NUTS 1 level places the entire country in a single unit, while there are 3 NUTS 2 regions. Those are Northwest Croatia, Central and Eastern, Pannonian, Croatia, and Adriatic Croatia. The latter encompasses all the counties along the Adriatic coast. Northwest Croatia includes Koprivnica Krševci, Krapinja Zagorje, Međimurje, Varaždin, the city of Zagreb, and Zagreb counties, and the central and eastern, Pannonian, Croatia includes the remaining areas Bjelovar Bilagora, Brod Posavina, Karlovac, Osijek Baranja, Požega Slavonia, Sisak Moslavina, Virovitica Podravina, and Vukovar Sirmia counties. Individual counties and the city of Zagreb also represent NUTS 3-level subdivision units in Croatia. The NUTS local administrative unit divisions are 2-tiered. LAU 1 divisions match the counties and the city of Zagreb, in effect making those the same as NUTS 3 units, while LAU 2 subdivisions correspond to the cities and municipalities of Croatia. Croatia has established diplomatic relations with 181 countries. As of 2017, Croatia maintains a network of 54 embassies, 28 consulates, and 8 permanent diplomatic missions abroad. Furthermore, there are 52 foreign embassies and 69 consulates in the Republic of Croatia, in addition to offices of international organizations such as the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, International Organization for Migration, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, World Bank, World Health Organization, WHO, International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, ICTY, United Nations Development Programme, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and UNICEF. In 2009, the Croatian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and European Integration employed 1,381 personnel and expended 648.2 million kuna, 86.4 million euros. Stated aims of Croatian foreign policy include enhancing relations with neighboring countries, developing international cooperation and promotion of the Croatian economy and Croatia itself. Since 2003, Croatian foreign policy has focused on achieving the strategic goal of becoming a member state of the European Union, EU. In December 2011, Croatia completed the EU accession negotiations and signed an EU accession treaty on December 9, 2011. Croatia joined the European Union on July 1, 2013, marking the end of a process started in 2001 by signing of the Stabilization and Association Agreement and Croatian application for the EU membership in 2003. A recurring obstacle to the negotiations was Croatia's ICTY cooperation record and Slovenian blocking of the negotiations because of Croatia-Slovenia border disputes. The latter should be resolved through an arbitration agreement of November 4, 2009, approved by national parliaments and a referendum in Slovenia, but due to the events during arbitration, Croatia does not accept results. As of 2019, Croatia has unsolved border issues with all neighboring former Yugoslav countries, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia, Slovenia. Another strategic Croatian foreign policy goal for the 2000s was NATO membership. Croatia was included in the Partnership for Peace in 2000, invited to NATO membership in 2008 and formally joined the alliance on April 1, 2009. Croatia became a member of the United Nations Security Council for the 2008 to 2009 term, assuming presidency in December 2008. The country is preparing to join the Schengen area. This is all for this video. Hit like button and subscribe. Goodbye.